How you doing, everybody? Today I want to talk about using the apocryphals. We are able to narrow the canon of the Old Testament, and we can narrow this by using 2nd Esdra, ESDRA, 2nd Esdra, using chapter 14, verses 44 through 48, because it talks about you need to write 94 books. 94, keep that in mind. And then it goes on to say, the first books that you wrote, give to the worthy and the unworthy publicly. And then it goes on to say, but the 70, so now we have the 70, it says, give strictly only to the wise, for it contains streams of understanding, wisdom, and knowledge. Well, if you read that and you trace the carbon dating of 2nd Esdras, well, it goes back to 100 AD or CE. 100 CE. And when you do read that second half, when it talks about those 70 books, well, it does sound esoteric in nature. And esoteric is hidden, it's strict, it's not biblical, really. But it talks about that first books that are written to give to the unworthy and the worthy publicly. That's 24 books. Now, if you know the Hebrew Old Testament, you will know that, guess what? It's 24 books in our Old Testament. Now, yes, the Reformers, Protestants, whatever, they have 39. There's a reason, though. There is a reason. And I wrote down in my notes right here. So I gotta try to word it the way I wrote it, because I wrote around it. So the Reformers, Protestants, they would print Hosea through Malachi as 12 separate books. But in the Hebrew, they have it as one book. So the 12 minor prophets is one book. It's not 12 like the Protestants have. So now you have one book. Same as 1st and 2nd Samuel. Same with 1st and 2nd Chronicles, and Ezra and Nehemiah. 1st and 2nd Kings. Like 1st and 2nd Kings, that was like in the 2nd century that they separated the books, made them two instead of one. So if you trace this before the Protestants separated the books, so now it equals 39. Well, the Hebrew text, all those books, a lot of those books were one. Hosea through Malachi, the 12 separate books were actually just one book. 1st and 2nd Samuel was just one book. 1st and 2nd Chronicles was just. So you do the math. Look this up yourself. I'm not going to get into all that. It breaks down to just 3 things, which Jesus and the apostles only ever quoted from. These 3 things: the law, the prophets, and the writings. And I even made a video on this already about the apocryphals. So, because apocryphal part 1 and apocryphal part 2. I already got 2 of those videos on them. Because apocryphals, you can read them. Sure, there's some cool things in there that could help us give an idea of where certain things come from, like the giants and whatnot. So, the 24 books, which is funny, it is significant that this apocryphal book does show its acquaintance with the acknowledgement of the Old Testament canon as known in the synagogue and the old churches. Even the Septuagint stuff, all those guys, they all knew what the inspired word was. And it breaks down into 3 categories: the Torah, the prophets, and the writings. So the Torah has 5 books, the prophets have 8 books, and the writings have 11 books. That equals 24. There you go. And we have an apocrypha from the 1st century that was written at that time, literally showing its acquaintance and knowledge of the Hebrew canon, the inspired, truly inspired word, not the extra books, Wisdom of Solomon and all that stuff. They're cool little writings and stuff, good for history and stuff, and good to read their thought process back then, but they're not canonical. So, and that's why I'm okay with our Old Testament, because you study these things. These are things that people need to study, dude. Seriously. Like, yeah, you can go back to 1st Ezra 2, which that was written around, the same era, the same silent period between the 400 years. But it reproduces, even 1st Ezra, even it's so old, and it's in the Septuagint, whatever, it's 400 BC, it's old. Well, it reproduces the substance of 2nd Chronicles from chapter 33, verses 1 to 36, and then chapter 23, the whole of Ezra and Nehemiah, chapter 7, verses 73, chapter 8 and 12. In addition to the biblical narrative appears in 1st Ezra, chapter 3, verses 1 and 5, chapter 6, also the tale of the 3 guardsmen. I mean, it's just, the apocryphals, okay, they have some hidden meanings, but they're not canonical or inspired. I used to think I was about to go on the spill, because I was talking with my friend the other day about, there's 94 books, and I got to study 2nd Ezra now to find out if this is true, because the dating will tell us everything. And 2nd Ezra, whoever wrote it, they exposed themselves in revealing the number of inspired scripture. They exposed themselves, because the apocryphals, they add ideas and stuff that's not biblical, so it doesn't even agree with the inspired word. So we could trace our canon using the apocryphals, because they're good to read, it's fine if they agree with our Bible. We can literally trace our canon prior the Masoretes, prior the Council of Nicaea. Whatever corruption people keep thinking of. It's funny, because I've been sitting here debunking all of it. There's no corruption in our text. We have too much. We have the Septuagint, Dead Sea Scrolls, the Masoretic text now, which, yes, it was written later, but it does trace back to the Dead Sea Scrolls is interesting because it supports both the Septuagint and it supports the Masoretic. So you can see that they didn't purposely try to corrupt nothing. They were trying to preserve and hold on to the Hebrew language. Jerome agreed with it. There's, other fathers that agreed with it. I mean, Jerome was the one that noticed that the apocryphals were not in the Hebrew canon. And now we can even prove that before Jerome, because Jerome's 4th century. Let's go earlier. Let's go to one of the apocryphals themselves, 2nd Ezra. Talks about 94 books. 70 is esoteric, and that belongs to the wise, but nope, nobody else can read it. But you notice how it says those 70 books is not there for your salvation. It doesn't save you. In the first 24 books, there is salvation. There is saving. The Hebrew canon. And the thing about the New Testament too, let me get on this real quick. There's 27,000 New Testament manuscripts. some dating before Council of Nicaea, some dating all the way up to the like 70, 80 AD, dude. Some of them, I think there was one that was even before, like Mark. I think Mark was the one that was like 55 AD. Okay, you're talking 20 years after Jesus' resurrection. Where's the corruption? I've studied way too many manuscripts. I've read too many manuscripts. I have way too many translations. I don't see the corruption. I have old books, new books, medieval, books from 400 BC. I got the Septuagint. I got the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's no textual corruption anywhere. Only thing that sometimes you'll see is a mistranslation. But that's easily corrected by just searching the original Greek and researching the original Hebrew. Because yes, we can have any English translation we want, and you can claim it's the best, but you still have to go through the Greek and the Hebrew. You have to go back to the source. That's what people don't want to do. They just want to say this version's corrupt, this version's corrupt, this is whatever. Why don't you just go back to the source? I started using the King James again because I realized no matter what English translation I get, nothing's going to be perfect in it because it's just English. We still have to think about how Spanish translates it. We still have to think about how Germans translate it. We still got to think about how all these other languages translate it. It's not going to be the same as our English, but it's going to convey and tell the same message and lead you the same way, and that's the Jesus. So I think in any language you should study the oldest roots of your language, and then from there resort back to what your language, go to the roots from where your language was translating from another language. How do I say that? I don't think I said that right. No matter what, you have to go to the source, which for us, for Christians, the source is Koine Greek and it's Hebrew. So I just wanted to get that across. We have the Hebrew canon that's been acknowledged for thousands of years prior to the Masoretes, prior to 4th century. Here we have in 2nd Esdras, which is an apocryphal book, mentions 94 books, says the first set of books goes to the public and is for public use for the worthy and the unworthy. Now, why would they say the worthy and the unworthy? Probably because those first set of books, those 24, is going to get you saved. Because then it goes on to say, but the 70 other books only strictly give to the wise. Yeah, that's kind of suspicious. So you're telling me that people like me can't read these books? I'm not supposed to read these extra 70 books? Well, that's how I know those 7. And I've studied these books. Okay, I have the 100-book apocryphal. All of Christian apocryphal texts and second canon texts, oracles, all that stuff, dude. I have it. It's the literal standard version. 100-book apocryphal. No Gnostic stuff. Just straight Christianity and Judaism. I have the Gnostic Bible, and I'm telling you right now, definitely not inspired. Which is also funny too, is Gnostics was blowing up the same time as Christianity was blowing up. Gnostics was borrowing from the Christian texts. Just saying. Either way, I just wanted to let you know that. Because people like, who was it? So there's two Jewish writers, Josephus and Philo. They were acquainted with the apocryphals, but they never quoted from it. I think there was one person that used First Ezra, because First Ezra reproduces Nehemiah and Chronicles and whatnot, because they were trying to make it a harmonized historical account, but they left out, I think it was Nehemiah, completely out of it, and it was a text that's written later anyways. That's the thing about carbon dating. Do I believe all of carbon dating? No, but it can, with geographical discoveries, we can figure out where the carbon dating fits best, where it makes sense. Science doesn't solve everything. It just makes you believe God more. But, so that's that. We have the perfect. We have it, dude. We have what we need. I don't really even want to read the other books no more. I still might find a verse from the apocryphal that I might read, as long as it agrees with the Bible, like how I did Having Contentment video. That verse really hit home for me, and I'm not a scholar or nothing, but I just like to read and try to make connections where I can, and I always search for Christ, no matter what I read. If Christ ain't in there, neither is... No, I shouldn't say that. Let me not say that, because that would be very unbiblical, and it would lead people on the wrong path, and I don't want to mislead people, so I'm not going to finish saying what I was going to say. But I just want to say, using the apocryphals helps us trace our inspired word, our canonical Hebrew. So, thank you. Black Rose Christian out.